Hey guys, Rohan here, and one of the questions I get asked very frequently from seniors in college or freshers who are just about to enter the workforce is how do they get started as a computer science grad or an IT grad? What's a great direction to become a developer? How do you get hired? How do you have a successful developer career? They ask me these questions, and that question comes from a place of concern on how fast the technology landscape is changing. So software development used to be one of the most coveted jobs when I was like 13 years old, 12, 13 years old. It was a great, nice, cushy job. But now it's no longer that. And if you are in any of the developed countries, it sucks even more because you have everyone from all the third world countries trying to take your jobs, and all of the companies outsourcing their works to places like India, where it can be done for pennies on the dollar, and that puts everyone who's just out of college in a very tricky situation. So I just get this question a lot from students who are in India as well as students who are in the US. They are like, hey, what do we do? How do we build a career in software development now in the age of AI? And the my answer to that was pretty much just, hey man, I don't know, best of luck. It's a pretty shitty place to be in. Best of luck. Sucks to be you. That was my answer. Because that genuinely is the truth. It's a very, very difficult place to be in. But then looking back, if I was ever in the same place, how would I go about doing it? Right? So just thought a little bit about that. Just wanted to record video going over that. So here is what you need to understand right now. Like primarily, software development for the last 15, 20, 30 years was primarily, it was based on niche knowledge of specific technologies, right? So what that meant was, you would not be an engineer, you would not be a software developer, you would be a React engineer, you would be a mobile engineer, you would be a JavaScript engineer, you would be like a .NET engineer, you would be all these different types of engineers. And then people high level understood that there was always a way to work to move between these technologies, but then you were granted a period of upskilling to move between the technologies. And it was expected that a .NET engineer would do .NET and all these different engineers would do different technologies. But what is happening due to AI is now, instead of having to know all of the in-depth syntax, all of the basic libraries, all of the nuance between these languages to master them and to build in them, you now don't need to do that. And as we move ahead in the next 5 to 10, I'll not talk about 10 years, I have no idea what will happen in 10 years, but as we move ahead in the next 2 to 5 years, we will start to see that now you don't need to worry that much about syntax. And one of the reasons for that is we of course have tools like V0, right? We tell all our engineers to use V0. We have tools like GitHub Copilot, you know that, figure it out. We have that. And we have tools like Blaze. Was there a tool called Blaze? I don't know. We just have a lot of these tools which are code generators, right? So I can just drag and drop a UI here and it would generate the code for that. I can tell ChatGPT or I can tell V1 or I can tell Claude, I can tell GitHub Copilot to just write a specific type of code and it would write that much faster than a human could. And what that then means is now you don't have to learn every single language. What you need to now know is, and of course I'm getting to a point of actionable advice, but what is happening currently is the industry, which was very niche down and you had multiple sub roles inside software development. Now you have a umbrella language, which is the English language, which you can use to interact with all these different technologies. And you can just say something in English and then have an app be built in another language. And of course, it is not production level, right? So it's just not going to spit out a production app magically. It's not going to do that. But what it will do is it makes the process of building and moving across tech stacks significantly easier. So it is much easier than what it was before. You don't need to pull your hair trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to work in this particular tech stack? It is now significantly easier. So as a software engineer, don't try to niche down into a specific language. Focus on breadth of information across different channels. So when I say channels, I mean it is really, really useful to have an engineer who can code and who is good at learning new things on a need to know basis. When I say all of this, it comes from a perspective of having worked in startups all my life. It doesn't come from a perspective of having worked in fan companies or in very big companies. I have worked in like startups. I have built dozens and dozens of SaaS companies from scratch for our clients, and all of this comes from there. So just a asterisk on everything that I'm saying. So to have a successful career, in my opinion, as a software engineer, you need a breadth of knowledge right now. So you should be able to code in Flutter. You should be able to code in React. You should be able to deploy something with Docker Compose. You should be able to do something. You should be able to work basics with Kubernetes. You should be able to build an HTML website. You should be able to work with WordPress. You should be able to build a Webflow website, and you should be able to high level build at least a basic app in Swift and Kotlin. And of course, when I'm listing these out like this, it feels like, how am I going to do all of this at the same time? But the truth of the matter is, when I was not that smart. I was just a little bit above than average smart. I was not that smart, but you just have time. You have time when you're in college. You have time since 11th grade, honestly, or you have time since the time you are in college. Just learn things one by one, right? So you devote periods of your life to learning these small things one by one. So if you want, just try to build an app for 2 months, you learn that. Try to build a Python thing for 2 months, you learn that. You do React for 2 months, you learn that. And you just build breadth of information over the first formative years of your software development IT career, which is the first, I'll say. And this is, of course, I'm counting college. You start your career in college. You don't start your career out of college. You start your career in college. So you just do all of that while you are in college as much as you can, so that when someone asks you, hey, can you build a mobile app? The answer should be, I did it 2 years ago. And I know how everything works. I now just need to go and learn things on a need to know basis, right? So fundamentally, breadth of information would be super useful if you want to work in smaller companies and startups. And when you are getting this breadth of information, focus on the paradigms that keep happening multiple times. So we have the REST API, we have APIs, we have front ends, how they work, we have back ends, how they work, the MVC architecture, how our architecture is working, how do we deploy something, how do VMs work, how does databases, what are the types of databases, fundamentals across the stack, and paradigms that are commonly used. What is an ORM, what is dependency injection, all of that, just know all of that. By know, I mean build things where you use those things. And again, I have done this. So I have done this. I mean, I have not done this. I used to do this. Now I don't. Now I'm like an old man who just sits and makes looms all day, dances on LinkedIn so that I can get leads for my company, and then just, I make TikTok videos basically. But once upon a time, you can see my GitHub, right? I started in 2017, which is 8 years ago, and you can just see this. All of this, and some of these were of course client projects that I built, but many of these were just open source projects that I was building for fun when no one was 7 years ago, right? I was if it is 2016, I was 16 years old back then, and I built this app. Oh my god, I'm looking at it after so long. Just built that for someone. 2018, this is when I got my first actual job, and I was just coding. I was just building random stuff. I built this app to, I don't know, you can see this. I built this app to detect your facial recognitions when you laugh, and it would just, you can check it out. It's all of it is in public domain. But what I'm trying to say is, build these side projects where you have no expectation of earning an income. The expectation is just learning. You just want to learn, and it is very, very difficult to just do it when you have been corrupted with the internet. When I was a kid, there was no Andrew Tate. I didn't want a Lambo. Now I want a Lambo, and I know of Andrew Tate. But when I was 18, we didn't have what we have right now. So it was very easy for me to just be passionate about coding. I of course wanted money, but I was not as much focused on it. I just wanted to have fun and build stuff. And many of the engineers that we hire at our company are like that. They just build for the sake of building, right? So do that for a period in your life. Just build stuff for fun. And then this ties into my next thing. So when you're building these, document your process. Document the way you do things. And of course, the Gen Z right now, they are really good at being comfortable in front of the camera. So really use that. And when I say document, I have done that. So every single repo I had a log for it. I used to write on this website called Dev2, and you can see stuff from like 6 years ago. I used to write about the things that I'm building, and no one was of course was paying me, right? No one was paying me. I still wrote it because I just loved doing it, and just that, right? I just walked everyone through what I'm building. I would build these apps and I would just write about them. And what I realized later on is, now when we hire engineers, there is such an emphasis put on just trying to hire someone who loves to code. Because if you are a developer, I as a hiring person want to hire someone who likes to code, it's his identity. He really loves doing it. He would do it if he got paid. He would do it even if he didn't get paid, right? So I hire people like that simply for just capitalism. That's why we do that. But that, right? So learn everything across different tech stacks. Build stuff for fun. Document while you do that. Make videos. I never made videos. I was very shy. I was skinny, and I don't know. I was just shy, skinny, and like ugly as well. So I don't know. I was very scared of the camera, so I didn't do that. But do that, because when someone else, you only need like the way I got my first job. I worked for an AI company completely remotely when I was in 12th grade of my college. A few months after I turned 18, and the way I got that job was through this repo. So you see this repo, right? Smooth Stream. someone starred my repo. I was part of an AI community, AI project, open source project. I used to, work on that. I was in their Slack channel and I used to just work on that. And during that, I made this. I made this project, and one of the founders of that open source project was a PhD guy. His name was Andrew Trask. He literally changed my life, and I know he does not even remember it. So Andrew, yeah, this guy. He's right now in DeepMind. Yeah, that's crazy, right? So he doesn't even do it. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, this guy. So he started my repo, right? And my boss, who was a Stanford graduate, who was CTO of the company, saw my GitHub repo. And then he saw everything I was doing. So he saw my other repos as well. He was like, this kid likes to code. And he was just like, hey, I'll just give it a shot. And he hired me for a small project. He just hired me for a small project completely remotely back in 2018. That's how I got hired, because there was a lot of past work, stars on my project, and someone saw something. You just need that once, right? You just need that once. Someone will see it and then you have a job and you're set in your first job. So yeah, we talked about breadth. We talked about building things, documenting them, and doing that without an expectation of any sort of return over an extended period of time. That's what you need to do. And then finally think about the direction that you want your career to go in. And just try to remember that I'm not sure if software development is going to be around in its current form and prosperity that it is in right now, right? So 10 years from now, maybe we would only need 1/10 of the engineers that we need currently. And then you can't be average. You just can't be average. So if you are an engineer who has a lot of projects, you are kind of okay at marketing, you write about your stuff, you make videos, you will just stand out and you will be one of the top 1 or 0.1% of engineers. So that's where you want to be, because everything else is going to just fluff. It doesn't matter. Fugazi. It's useless. So that's what you need to do. And if you don't want to be a generalist, right? You are like, no, I don't want to do generalization. I want a specialization. Then, and you want to work in a very big fan company. Then what you should probably do is just do data science, algorithms, and lead code. Some version of that. That is what everyone says, and that's all I know, because I haven't been in a fan. But it's possible that they continue to keep hiring the way they are hiring, or maybe they shift and do a more project-based, implementation-based approach. But this is how you primarily do it. This is my roadmap for doing it. This is exactly how I have done it. And while you do all of this, always remember that the goal of software development is not to get in a circle jerk and just impress all your other engineer friends by building something very, very complex. That's not the goal. It's to build something that gets something done. And you can, of course, build something that is incredibly complex for no reason other than just to build it because it's complex. You would become a very great engineer like that. But it's not always necessary that you do that. So as the years go along, you'll notice that these no-code platforms will start to get better. We have platforms right now like Relevance. And Relevance is really, really amazing from what I have heard about it. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we have no-code platforms, which if you supplement with code platform, you can build really beautiful things with everything. So just think about everything, think about how that fits in, and then focus on building stuff. And when I'm personally hiring, here is what I look for. I look for markers of intelligence and markers of creativity in people, right? So and I think that is what others who are hiring for similar roles look for as well. So what that means is you can't just be like a blob, a basic human blob of organic matter. You can't be that. It's commoditized. You can't be a commodity, right? So when I look at you, when I look at something, there needs to be something interesting. Whether that is you are in incredible physical shape, you run marathons, or you play an instrument, you are great at that. You write music, you have written a novel for some reason. You are incredibly good at something. You are a stand-up comic, good one, or you're an Instagram influencer for some reason. Having something which shows proficiency, ability, and something that sets you apart is incredibly important. Otherwise, you're just commoditized, right? So I hope this was useful. I think I went a little bit all over the place, but all I know is working at early stage companies, building things from scratch. That's what we have done. We have done it for enterprises. For this larger companies, we have done it for very small companies. We've done that over and over dozens and dozens of times. So for that, this is the best approach, in my opinion. Lots of side projects, documentation of that, and eventually if you want to transition into being an entrepreneur, meaning building your own SaaS company, building your own agency, selling something, this will set you up perfectly for that because you're already doing half of that. If you want to do consulting, freelancing before, even if you want to do that, all of that, the steps are same. The steps are same to get a job as to do freelancing. But again, can't speak for fan. This is how I would structure my career. I'll just do the same thing all over again, basically. So I hope that was useful. That's it. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Bye.